Whether it's on a cold approach where you'd be doing a lot of flirting all at once right up front, or if it's in like a social circle or a school situation or a work situation where you're gonna maybe not have a long interaction, but you're gonna have a series of little brief interactions, the percentage of dialogue that might be slightly flirtatious, like teases, one-liner, just like even non-verbal flirts like eye contact or like a smirk or that kind of stuff, it's going to be a relatively high percentage of the conversation. But once you've crossed a certain threshold, once the girl has decided she likes you, once she's kind of made that switch has flipped in her mind, then you can chill out a little bit, and you can just get to know the girl and put in a lot less effort. And the flirting from there should occur pretty naturally because you've already established that dynamic. And once it's been established, it doesn't really unestablish. But also you've kind of made your point. You've made the point that you are a man and a man-to-woman interaction. You've made the point that you're not afraid to flirt. You've already sparked attraction. And now you can kind of get like the reward for that, which is the ability to connect. From the start, we'd like to connect, right? If you like someone, you want to connect. So it kind of follows that once the girl likes you, she'll want to connect with you. So letting her connect is probably the most efficient thing to do. And understand that flirting is a means to an end. Flirting is the means to the end, which is connection. Okay, it's not an end in itself. The goal of flirting is not just more flirting. The goal of flirting is connecting and getting a deeper relationship with someone who likes you and someone who you like. So once that's a possibility, once that's available, you want to go ahead and move on to the next phase, right? Relationships and even initial interactions have phases to them. They have the we're strangers, we have the we don't know if we like each other, then we have the we like each other and we're getting to know each other phase. And if you don't move it forward to the next phase, you're going to end up in this weird limbo where you just don't go forward and it just gets old, right? It's like if you've ever been on a date where you're kissing someone, and at first it's really exciting, you're kissing this new person. But if you just kiss for hours and hours and hours and never go anywhere beyond kissing and never talk anymore, you just kiss and kiss and kiss. At some point you're just bored of kissing. You're like, is this what we're doing again? Oh, more kissing, okay, great. And it just gets old. It's the same thing with flirting. Flirting is great. It's a wonderful thing. It's very great for building attraction, creating a dynamic, triggering emotions, all those kind of things. But if that's all you're doing, it does eventually get old. And it also is a little more superficial in terms of the connection than other things that you can do. So once you have flirted, once you do like the girl and she likes you, once that's clear, you want to continue to flirt, but just as a lower percentage of the conversation. So if at the start it was maybe 80% of the conversation, later on it might be 50%, then 40%, then eventually 20% and on down. And you still need to do it. If it goes to 0%, the interaction gets boring, but it certainly doesn't need to stay anywhere near as high as it was at the start. So if you've never flirted, you're definitely not in a man-to-woman phase with the girl, right? If you flirted never in the interaction, you can't assume that she likes you that way, and you can't assume that she's even received the message that you like her that way. So you need to flirt at some point. But assuming you have flirted a bit and now you're tapering it off, how can you tell where you're at? Experience, sadly, is one answer, right? So the more girls you talk to, the more times you succeed, the more times you fail, you're going to see what success looks like, you're going to see what failure looks like, and that's going to help you. So that is a big part of it. But the other thing is that as humans, we have this great capacity to understand other human beings. It's like when you watch a movie, the character in the movie is going through events that you've never lived in your life, but you can feel the emotions they're feeling. You can sympathize and you can relate to whatever's going on. So a good thing to do is kind of just put yourself in the girl's shoes and ask, if I was in the girl's situation and I was interacting with me, would I be clear that this is a man-to-woman interaction, and how clear? Because usually guys are too subtle. So if you'd be 20% sure, you're not sure enough. But if you'd be about 90% sure, then you're probably fine. Right? So if it's very clear, if you put yourself in her shoes, and it would be very, very hard to assume that it's not man-to-woman, then it's probably man-to-woman. And if that's not the case, then ramp it up until you are fairly certain that if you're in her shoes, it would be. And in terms of that, in terms of over flirting and under flirting, you're generally better off over flirting than under flirting, right? And you're usually better off being a little too man-to-woman than a little not man-to-woman enough, both in terms of actually what is perfect game and even more so in terms of most guys' natural tendency. Most guys tend to be overly nice. Most guys tend to be overly polite, and most guys tend to be overly worried about a negative reaction. Most guys tend to assume girls are picking up on more hints than they are, etc. So err on the side of doing more than you think, but also just kind of put yourself in her shoes and just be like, is this getting to a level of ridiculous one way or another, right? You want it to be very clear, not just kind of clear, but very clear. And understand that while you won't be flirting later as much in like a pure like using push pulls and using misinterpretation and using like teasing formats, you will still be talking in a man-to-woman way because you'll be talking through the frame or the idea that you guys are an item. So you might be talking about things you both might do together later, which is already implying a relationship, right? Or maybe you're not actively teasing, but you're sitting there talking to her with your arm around her and there's physical contact. So there's all these other indicators of man to woman that are kind of latent indicators or like sort of passive indicators or things that you don't have to be doing moment to moment, they just are present in the interaction. And as long as those are there, the flirtation doesn't need to be as much, which is actually why you can get away with less flirtation later on, is because if you were to go straight in and go like, put your arm around the girl and just hug her at the start and hold her there while talking to her, she'd be like, who is this weird, creepy guy doing that? But once you flirted and had good interaction and then like had some level of physical contact and eye contact and, isolating yourselves one-on-one away from the crowd and talking one-on-one intentionally, once those things are happening, it's a lot easier, like the message is being conveyed with less extraneous flirting necessary. That's all kind of part and parcel to it as well.